Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Medevac Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Meyers, joined by our other host.
Hello, everybody.
David Reid. Before we hop into today's episode, if you've listened before, you know that there is a price for the show. You have to share it with a friend or family member. So hit that share button, interact with the video somehow, please.
The thumbs up button. I heard they took off
The counter.
the thumbs down button.
So it still exists. There's just no counter for it anymore.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So don't hit that button. Hit the one next to
Or
it.
you can, because no one will know. It doesn't even matter. You can't tell if you don't like it.
Who's our guest today?
So we have Simon Garcia here today. We just spent a few days doing some mountain biking with him. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But Simon Garcia, 20-year Air Force veteran, retired as Master Sergeant, and did a very important job in the Air Force, communications. So welcome, Simon. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Communications is important, I think, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny. We always talk about like the animosity that goes on between the other MOSs or anything in between. But we all kind of need each other, right? If we didn't have communications,
Yeah.
we wouldn't
be able to
we'd
fucking
be
talk.
done for. Yeah. So thanks for being on the show, man. And two, it's been more than 20 years, correct? It was a little and some change.
Yeah, 5 months, 19 days. It's 20
But who's
5 months,
counting,
19,
right?
Yeah. Who's counting?
3.5 hours. Yeah. Down to the minute.
So my favorite question to ask in the beginning is, why did you join the military? What inspired you to do that?
It was kind of funny, like the way just things transpired, because I had no ambitions to join the military. My mom was actually trying to like get me to go in, because like the neighborhood I grew up in, she was like, "There's nothing for you here. If you don't get out of here."
What neighborhood was that?
It was actually just west of here in San Antonio, right off, right by East Kelly.
Yeah.
The
right
base
there. Yeah. So like I grew up with, I say this, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's pretty crazy that I've been shot at more times out of the military than in the military. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they were just shitty shots, you know what I mean? Like it was either a drive-by at a party or something like that, but that was just kind of my life at the time.
Jesus. And you were growing up just living like this.
Yeah.
This was
I mean,
normal
that's
every
just,
day.
I don't say this with the like, oh, for sorry. That's just all I knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's wild.
I didn't even know I grew up in that type of neighborhood until my first duty station. I was at Kelly Air Force Base. I didn't go far,
right
but
down the street.
yeah, but I was constantly out the door. But I ended up bringing some friends over for a house party that we're having at my parents' house. And one of the guys, he was just like, "Man, do you live in the ghetto?" I was like, "What? Do I?" Yeah.
You just were completely unaware.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
this is
completely
how you were.
unaware. Yeah, it's just the way I grew up,
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, news to me. I didn't know I was in the ghetto.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't until after leaving and stuff that I kind of started having that contrast of the way people lived and what have you. But having said all that, my mom and I got in a big argument, about going in the military. I thought I knew everything, of course, like we all do. And just things started shifting for me. She made me, we didn't talk for a little bit. And she made me go to some she was very religious. So she made me go to some like Billy Graham thing that they had down at the Alamo Dome, a while back. And they had a major talking, and she was talking about her experience with the Air Force, and that kind of just started shifting for me. But in my, ego and being young and dumb, I was like, no, I'm gonna join the Marines.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I went to go talk to a recruiter without them knowing, because I was too proud to tell them that I was going to join the military, because I didn't want to go to school. I didn't have the money, one.
Yeah.
Two, I wasn't ready for school. I barely liked going to traditional school. So
Yeah, I understand that.
I went to go talk to a Marine recruiter, and they were out to lunch, and Air Force recruiter was like, "Hey, you trying to go to the Marines?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come back." She was like, "Why don't you just come sit in here and, just hang out, there's some snacks or whatever." And she ended up convincing me she was real. She told me straight up she was a TI herself, and she answered all my questions straight, and that kind of just started the process to join the Air Force.
Interesting.
And
Air Force swoops up on everybody.
Every person we've asked in the probably the last 6 interviews that we've had, every person's like, well, I went in to go check this branch out, but the Navy recruiter's outside smoking a cigarette, leaning against the wall, and it's like, hey kid, come check this out. It seems like they swoop in every time.
Yeah, sounds like an 80s movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
Pretty much is. Shirtless with their dog tags on.
Out there playing volleyball.
With those aviator glasses on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to join the Navy? You can fly F-18s if you want.
Yeah.
Aviators are standard issue.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, tell me how you got into communications. Obviously, you weren't like a kid growing up in the ghetto being like, I'm gonna join the Air Force for communications.
So I came in open general. So as anybody who knows that was in the military, that's kind of like shit. You could be whatever, right?
Mm.
And I had 3 jobs to choose from, which I had to choose like in, 3rd or 4th week of basic training. And one of those was cable communications. And me being, young and dumb, like I said, I thought I was like, you know what? Because one of the good advice that I got from people when I was joining, like make sure you get a job that you can transfer on the outside.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just like, I could be, a cable repairman, like just fixing fucking cable TV,
lineman or something.
And so I had to do the fear of heights test and all these different things. So long story short, that's how I picked it. It was just a luck of the draw, pretty much.
So there's a fear of heights test?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to that?
Yeah. So you go up like 10 to 15 feet. I don't remember. And then they have you like safety in, and then you have to like lean back and then touch your nose and do all these like things.
Interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of people, especially when we started training people how to like rescue people from towers and stuff, they freeze about 8 feet, 9 feet.
Really?
8 feet?
Yeah.
Man.
At least that was my experience with it. Yeah, 8 to 10 feet.
Interesting. Yeah. I I understand that vertigo feeling, like
Right.
you're standing on a tall object.
Mhm.
I've done a few base jumps back in the day, and when you're standing over the edge or something extremely tall like that vertigo feeling, like it throws you way.
Isn't that
out.
weird? That's a fear response.
It might be.
And it's so weird to me that, when you're that high up, your body is like, no, I can't do this. And that leads to your death. Because the fear, because you do, you get that like, that kind of whomping feeling, and you're just like narrow tunnel vision. And then all of a sudden you start swaying, and it seems counterintuitive to me that your body does that.
Yeah. It starts giving up when you're on the edge.
It does. It's like,
I'm checking out.
Yeah.
If you're ever
luck.
like, if you're ever just walking on a plank that's sat on the ground, you could easily walk past that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we put that 100 feet in the air, you can't do it.
Mhm.
Why is that?
Yeah, fear response.
Fear response.
You guys
That's
ever
right.
seen that bridge in China? It's like see-through.
The glass bridge.
The glass bridge.
Yeah.
And then like people just like freeze or like,
Yeah.
even animals.
It's the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Shoots up, cortisol, stress, gets you
Mhm.
shaken, gets you killed.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, it does.
screw the body, dude. Screw the human body.
Is that something that you got over after a while, or is that something that you just
Honestly,
didn't have
it
much-
wasn't like I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
It was pretty simple for me. I mean, my dad, he did roofing, for 30 plus years. And sometimes in the summer, I would go help him.
Okay.
And man, that's a tough job, especially in Texas.
Yeah, summertime roofing.
Oh, yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
When we talked last week, though, you told me that for funsies, you used to climb towers overseas.
Well, not for fun. It was part of the job. But yeah, we used to, go to some NATO sites and like in Turkey, and it would be like 200-300 foot towers that we'd have to climb up, maybe sometimes a little taller than that. In the UK, it was the same thing. We just had to climb them, maintain them, with rust and bust, with a wire brush, and go all the way to the top. And, sometimes you have to take breaks on the way up just because you're carrying your tools, and then the ropes, because you can drop down for the tool line and all that jazz. So yeah, it was pretty challenging, but at the same time, it was rewarding,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a phase that people went through, was these tower climbs. Do you remember seeing that one where they slide down the cable with the gloves on?
Yeah.
And just one little wire that was stray from that.
Yeah, you would have
Fall to your death.
Yeah, the Urbex guy.
No, it was-
exploring. Yeah. That's what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
wild to me.
Cases.
and sometimes you'd have to safety out to go around like either like microwave dishes or guy wires.
Yeah.
So you couldn't like, so you'd have to just free climb
Mhm.
and to go around it and then safety back in. And keep
Oh, really?
going. Yeah.
So sometimes you're just free climbing there
Mhm.
for the good safety lanyard
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
Honestly, that sounds like a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that more than working with customers, if I'm being honest. It's just, I mean, dealing with humans sometimes can be very challenging, but, where you're just kind of working out, with the team and just out in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean,
Sure, that afforded you some pretty good opportunities too, right? I know there's like really big radio relay towers out in like the Azores.
Mhm. That was one of our sites.
Yeah, that's-
Azores, Turkey, Italy,
Okay.
Germany, UK. Yeah.
So you've got to travel around quite a bit.
Yeah,
too.
I actually traveled quite a bit, especially when I was at the union in Germany. We did we call it special comms unit, pretty much. But we would go and do all the even like sometimes downrange, we would have to go and do some of the sites like in Mosul and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So even out in
yeah.
combat environments too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
what's the most challenging thing that you think you've faced in communications with the military?
That's a
tough question.
it is a tough question.
That was a tough
Like on what level are you?
I mean,
shooting at?
you've got to have, duct tape for a communications tower. Like what's some of the problems that you see?
So, I mean, with tower work, there's never one job that's easy. Even if you can plan everything, you can do a site survey, but none of the tower, you're always having to create and fabricate something to get it to be secured on the tower.
MacGyver it.
You're right, MacGyver it, because it's just the angle iron is it's not as thick or not as thin or what have you. So you have to go into the mechanic shop and find parts and materials and or just go to the flight line and go get like, hey, do you guys have anything to work with this, or can you weld this?
Yeah.
So that was challenging. But a lot of times it was humans that were like, other, military. People would be stealing our shit,
Really?
like really important, like, like comms, like for, predator feeds or anything like, UAVs and shit like
For
that.
what? Like
Cable, one time it was fucking like cable TV. Like
Really?
they just, we ran out of, strands. So we just took these, and it was just doing stupid stuff like that. And that put a lot of people in danger. And it was just,
Man, that is crazy. Did you ever get to the top and realize that you forgot the tool that you needed?
yes. Yeah. I mean, but that's why we took the bag up a lot of times. But what made it really challenging, speaking of which, is like if you are at, can you curse on here?
Yeah.
I've been cursing. If you had to take a shit off the top,
Yeah.
because you can't go down,
You should just let it loose. Buddy.
Yeah, so you just have to safety in and then kind of drop your.
You've done that?
I haven't done it, luckily, but other guys
you've
have.
done it.
Nah,
You've done it.
I
know
would
you've
say
done it.
I would say it. I pissed off the top, but never shit off the top. Yeah. One time I heard
touch your nose.
Yeah. One time I heard it landing on the GOV. It landed right on the windshield.
Oh,
my
awesome.
God.
Yeah. Which is pretty amazing because if you drop anything off the tower, the wind just takes it.
Yeah.
So wind was another challenging thing.
Just can you imagine that? Just getting smacked in the face.
Shit from above.
A big pile of poop.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Big ass bird.
Golly, that's crazy. That's crazy. So what's your, have you ever had a close call up there or a scary moment
Yeah.
where you almost fell to your death?
Yes. A couple of times you would just be getting complacent. You're tired. Like I was in Djibouti and I was just fucking toasted from the heat.
Yeah,
we're working like 10-hour days. There's just one other guy I was working with.
Yeah.
And I was on malaria medication. You're not supposed to be in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
No shit. Literally, my arm turned like a purple hue,
Oh.
after being up, because I was just trying to be there and get the fuck out of there, and go on to the next site. And it was like about a week into it, and we're at the top. We skipped lunch, and I was just up there, and I just kind of like, like started falling backwards. And luckily I just pulled my arm out and grabbed the angle iron and like grasped, a hold of something. And now that would have landed on because there was like a small perimeter around there, like a fence around it.
Yeah.
I would have just like fucking T-boned that.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, like with anything else, like exhaustion comes into play, or that's why you always have to check your equipment, make sure there's no like snags or burrs or anything like on any of your carabiners or anything like that.
Sure, yeah.
Other times you would just be at the top, you would just safety in. And sometimes it's your safety is on your D-ring, and you kind of just sit back and you're just kind of like relaxing, right? And it just shifts a little bit, and it just feels like you drop like maybe like half an inch. Whew. It just scares the shit out of you,
because it's like sideways or something. Sideways, and it just catches.
Yeah.
My God. So have you seen an injury?
No, I just heard of them.
Everybody's been relatively safe.
Yeah, I've heard of them. There have been some deaths, people just falling off like to their death and stuff
probably,
like that.
And it's probably something silly like being tired or just worked.
A lot of times we would do stupid shit like, drink, the night before and then go out in the tower. Military is kind of like the environment you're in.
Alcoholics, yes.
Yeah, man. Shit, I was right there, man. Don't get me wrong. But doing stupid stuff like that would kind of, increase that, those hazards exponentially.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just part of it. You know what I mean? But you just try to watch the guys, and if they needed to take them off the tower, you took them off the tower.
Yeah.
So
that was the old adage I used to hear, which probably not super applicable or super correct, but if you can't do the job hungover or drunk, you shouldn't be doing the job.
Yeah.
That's what I used to hear all the time.
Oh, I don't know about that. That sounds like...
I've heard that
Would you do that base jumping? Probably not.
Hell no.
Yeah.
When I was base jumping, even the night before, like everyone would go out for drinks. 7:30 p.m., I'm inside trying to get some sleep. So I'm like, bushy-tailed for the morning, because the last thing you want is any sort of distraction.
I mean, just any sort of, ailment at all. Like alcohol is just, it dilutes your ability to think so drastically. I mean, shoot, I knew, Rangers who would never even take ibuprofen because your reaction time is lower from that. I know you, and we'll get to this part on medication.
Right.
It's how much do you take? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's probably not the best idea. And the military just loves to hand it out like candy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
take Motrin, you'll feel better.
Yeah, it's vitamin M, man.
But you become a different person from it, right?
Yeah.
So before we get into that, talk to me a little bit. Have you gone to the Middle East at all, or has it mostly been to our NATO allied bases?
No, I mean, it's nothing like I wasn't anywhere like in Afghanistan or nothing, but it was like Qatar twice, Kuwait, and like support roles and stuff like that. See UAE, things like that. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of operations, especially like, drone support and stuff like that, are from bases like that. And more so, they're further back now. Yep. You know what I mean? Technology has moved so forward so fast. I don't think people realize, it can be I'm pretty sure it could be on an app now on your fucking phone. You can launch strikes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they are. A lot of the CCT, TACP guys who are doing, any joint air controllers, they're using iPhones and Androids.
Yeah.
They just keep it right there on their chest, and they can do all the interaction right there from a cell phone. So it's pretty incredible to see how far it's come so quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty bananas. Man. I remember seeing like some stuff, and it was just like, that's some fucking sci-fi shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how like technology really integrates into future warfare. I mean, because I think boots on the ground at this point is almost old school, too old school, right? I mean, now we have technology and it's cyber warfare.
Yeah. And then Russia, I'm not sure if you heard, they have like subsonic drones and stuff like that. That's fucking...
And they're making a big old rocket, right?
Yeah.
Hypersonic ones.
Hypersonic rockets now that could literally beat our radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
It is.
We'll see. It's probably just a flex because we've seen how shitty they've done so far in a near-peer conflict. But regardless, a hand on any button is something to be scared about. I mean, It is.
Pretty insane world. And it's crazy that we're living in 2022 and people are still doing this to each other.
I know. You figure we learn our lessons through the thousands of years of war and, people writing about it. And I don't know. I mean, you could, circle it all back to, I don't know. We're still like primal beings where we seek violence.
Very true.
Yeah. And
very violent. Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, that is crazy. So no injuries that you saw, which is good. No injuries on your side of things. So you had a great career. You got to travel the world, right? And then you met your wife
in Korea. Yeah.
That's amazing. So to talk about that a little bit.
Met her in Korea. We were just like friends. She was in the as a planner in the comm squadron, and like we just became like we're just friends or what have you, and we just clicked because of our upbringing, the way she was brought up. She wasn't brought up with like a lot of money, very family oriented, and we just became friends. Like most people in Korea, I don't know if you guys been in Korea before.
Nope.
But like within Korea, and I'm saying this because everyone goes there in relationships, and that's not the case for a lot of people to leave there in the same relationship for various reasons.
Yeah.
So that was my case, but that was something that was prior to that. Issues going on at home, being gone all the time. And so same thing with her. And we just, became friends, stayed friends after we left Korea. And we kind of went through our own stuff. We were kind of there for each other because we were friends. And then she got out, and then that kind of evolved into a relationship. And then that brought its own, challenges as well, because I was still out the door a lot.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't like for her and like the strong person that she is, I don't know if I would be the person I am today, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Just because, I mean, we kind of got into some of the conversation in the truck about, suicide attempt and stuff like that. So those are some very like challenging times, but
I mean, if you're comfortable talking about it, we briefly spoke in the vehicle on the way to the ER room. That's how we know each other from taking this guy to the ER room. But we'll get into that shortly. But yeah, you briefly mentioned that to me that you were going through a lot of mental health issues.
Right.
And you actually had an attempt.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I had to come through the different challenging myself and trying to really try and figure out what the hell was going on with me. So how I got into even that point, it's a number of things that happens right within our life that accumulates and you don't deal with it. Drinking, I had a shit ton of negative coping mechanisms, such as drinking, such as, whatever, pain meds that the VA gave, or not the VA, but the military give you.
Yeah.
And I was still doing the mission, and I felt that I was okay to do the mission. I mean, that was okay because I was still doing the mission successfully.
Okay.
And so everything else, even though she would like highlight things like, hey, you're not sleeping, you're not like, I was an asshole, if I'm being honest. Like, we'd go to restaurants or whatever, and I just had this expectation that she knew where I wanted to sit, and that would like lead to arguments. And it was stuff that I didn't even know that was going on with me. Yeah. And that just had to deal with I'm pretty sure some of the stuff being shot at like more times in the military than that led to that, as well as some stuff I experienced while in the military supporting live operations and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it was crazy how that happened because supporting drones or UAVs, at one point in time, I would see them and it was like, yeah, we're getting the bad guys, because you're part of the mission, you're supporting it in the way that you know how, and you feel like you're good at your job. Mm-hmm. But then it was like shortly after I had my kids, that kind of shifted. And then there was some that did happen when I was talking about human error, people going in, taking stuff, and then you have to go in and fix it. And then they're like, hey, we want you to see how you contributed to the mission.
Sure.
And what transpired after that was I just saw things differently after that, and I didn't expect to.
So were they like showing you the aftermath?
Yeah. It was just like live, a high value target. We're tracking these guys, and like you're seeing it kind of play out, and you're just kind of like excited. And then when it happens, you're like, it's just.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real.
It's real. And we talked about this too. Actually, Christian, you said a really good thing the other day is it doesn't matter. And I want you to talk about that too, is when you have a bunch of shit that piles up, even if it's good.
Oh, yeah. We were having this conversation because we've been working ourselves to death the past couple months. I mean, we've been pulling 12, 15, 18-hour days pretty routinely. And even it got to a point where Dave and I were having a conversation. We had a day that we got phenomenal news in the morning, and then the afternoon, even better news. And then in the evening, even better news. Everything relative to the business, everything was really screaming forward. And we looked at each other and we're like, why do we still feel like shit right now? And basically what it came down to was like, as you're piling all this negativity on, you're just piling it on your back, right? You're still carrying that. When you receive good news, if it's relative to that same aspect, it still gets piled right onto that big pile, right? So you have all this negative stuff or all these poor things that are happening. So even when you're throwing that good news on top, it still ends up feeling like it's weighing you down.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily shift your perspective or like force you to shift your perspective. That's something that you have to stop and take account for. Like, okay, does this good news like cancel out that bad news, and can I shift my perspective from here? But sometimes it takes a while to turn that ship. You can be going, you can have a really big ship, and in order to turn it 180 degrees, it's going to take a little while.
Yeah,
you have to force that perspective shift.
And that's a good point, because stress is stress, right? I mean, your body doesn't really know the difference whether it's high or low. I mean, we just focus more on the negative as opposed to the positive in those situations. And with that, like, even if you could take account, like if you don't have the tools or understanding to actually dissect and take those apart and deal with them and whatever tools that you learn, then they're just going to keep piling up, and you're probably going to continue to do the same thing to try to, push them away or compartmentalize to keep doing whatever it is you're doing to be successful.
Exactly. And you can't do that forever.
No, you can't.
You have to face it.
Yeah, it will catch up, and it'll either manifest in physical pain or, not sleeping or, outbursts or anything like that. It's going to find a way out.
It's the little things that add up, right?
Right.
It's the lack of sleep, the stress that piles up. And it's just all this gradation of things that is, impacting your life day to day. When you eventually get to a point where you feel like you have no purpose, right? And that we talked about that briefly too, is I think it would be easier if I was just gone. I'm just being a detriment to everybody around me and in my life. And that's the justification that parents have with their children too, is they're better off without me. Right?
Right. No, yeah. And that's kind of where I was at. Like, since my kids were geographically like separated from me, just because the divorce or what have you.
Sure.
I didn't have them in my life, and there's some other factors that kind of play into that, I even though I spent all my leave and money to try to go see them and maintain that relationship, it still has its own, challenges.
Sure.
So with that was kind of one part of it, right? And then I wasn't, even like to this day, I don't realize how much of an impact like the military has had on my character and like the way I carry myself, the way I speak, the way I raise my voice without even realizing it, And so those all, are dynamics that kind of factor into kids that didn't grow up with the military environment. So that, and not wanting, like, in my mind at the time, I was like, you know what, my kids are taken care of. They got everything they need. If I die, then they get money. You know what I mean? Like I'm not part of their lives anyways. There's whether it's rational or not. That was one thing.
Very real thoughts.
Right.
But you can rationalize those thoughts and you can justify them to any means, especially, I mean, if you're taking inventory of what you're saying, right? You didn't have a great family structure at that time. Obviously, with your direct family, ex-wife and kids, they're not around, so you can't rely on them to help you out at all. You mentioned avoidance measures, right? So you're using alcohol or pain medication to help dull that need, and then are you truly fulfilled through your work? Is that what's bringing you fulfillment? And it sounds like it wasn't at the same time.
No, it wasn't. It was actually my last 5 years. I was doing acquisitions, which it brought I traveled a lot, which was good, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I was behind a desk, and I was just kind of hating life. You know what I mean? I'm used to
just a body.
Yeah, just a body, space. And then having to deal with
being a drone.
Politics, exactly. Just the politics of everything. And
so that's that sense of purpose.
Exactly.
Right?
And then, a bunch of other things. But then because I went to go get help because I wasn't sleeping, all these number of things. I was a fucking asshole all the time. I was irritable, mood swings, yada, yada. I was like, let me go get help. I've been telling troops to go get help. And using this thing, saying like, hey, you know what? You don't have a career if you're dead or whatever. And it sounded good, right?
So then you started feeling dishonest to yourself.
Exactly.
Which did not help.
No. So I went to go get help.
Yeah.
I went, I was like, look, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. This is kind of what's going on. And that kind of, over time, and then I was still doing the mission, still going TDY. And at the time, they didn't have a psychiatrist on base. So they moved me over to the VA.
Which is crazy to me. Which is crazy to me.
Where were you stationed?
I was at Hanscom Air Force Base near Boston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was smaller base.
Right. Yeah. So they put me
You should always have a psychologist that you could go to talk to. Right. Per unit, to be honest.
They had a psychologist, but not a psychiatrist. So they couldn't issue meds, prescribe meds. Yeah. So I went over to the VA. I was like, well, because that's the thing, right? When you're first starting to tell your story, you don't, one of the things I didn't want to do is have to fucking keep repeating it and repeating it, right?
Yeah, to someone who doesn't understand as well, right?
Right. And then with my story too, I was already kind of feeling this unworthiness because of the way where it stemmed from.
We talked about this, and I think that's a big part is the just theory. You've heard me say that as well. You mentioned something to me the other day, and we talked about it. You don't feel like you deserve the help because everybody else is doing so much, and you empathize so well with everybody else, and it takes away from who you are and the therapy that you need yourself.
Right.
So I hear this all the time with veterans. They come up to me and say, I never did what you did. I just did this. And I always stop them. We talked about this. Just stop them and say, when you say you just did something, you're devaluing yourself and the story that you have. You can't compare yourself to other people's adversities. Everybody faces their own battles, fights their own demons, So that is a huge thing that we just need to shake out of everybody because post-traumatic stress or stress in general doesn't have a cap. It doesn't have a specific entry level where you have to hit that mark. It could be seeing someone get hit crossing the road. That is a horrible, horrible thing. And war is horrible. And it is okay to feel stressed out from that. And if you are, a war fighter and you go and take someone's life and you're happy about it, there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? No matter who you are. So it's okay, to feel like you're not worthy, but you still go seek that help, right? And they'll be able to work you through that.
Right.
And were they able to do that?
They were. However, being at the VA and the Air Force, more specifically, they didn't talk to each other. So I got prescribed meds that you couldn't have on active duty.
Okay.
So that immediately triggered a med board. So it was the time amount I was in treatment. Keep in mind, I'm still going out the door every 2 weeks, Yeah. And I'm going to my appointments when I come back, So there was a break in treatment, I guess. But so that, and then it triggered the med board. And honestly, at the time, it sounds how it sounds, but that was the last. My marriage was suffering at the time. Everything I was doing was not contributing to a healthy marriage. I wasn't owning my shit. I was just kind of like a toddler. You know what I mean? Just fucking blowing up at everything. And once that triggered that med board and there was nothing I could do about it, that was the final straw for me. You know what I mean? I didn't have my kids. I was going through this. I was fucking hating life or whatever. And I just was drinking one night and fucking main attempt, I went in the car after an argument with my wife, and I just fucking turned it on, closed the garage door, and yeah. And somehow, some way, I fucking woke up. I don't know.
Psst. Caleb, did you know with Black Rifle Coffee's Coffee Club subscription, you can get fresh coffee shipped to you every month? What? You don't even have to go to the store. Whoa. You don't even have to leave your bed.
What? Wow. How did you get in here? You might want to go ahead and join the Black Rifle Coffee Club subscription before one of these guys shows up at your place.
So you did pass out?
Yeah, I passed out, and then, I don't know, it was strange because I woke up like a robot, like got up like, I don't even know what time it was. I got up, turned off the car, went inside. I didn't even consider it an attempt. I spoke to my therapist on Monday, and I just said it like nothing. Like
this happened.
Yeah, I did this on Saturday, but whatever, press it on, whatever, But I was in this fucking like depressive, like really, really low state. And I was weak, lethargic. And she was like, that was an attempt. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? No, it wasn't, because in my mind, I'm still minimizing, like, an attempt's this or whatever, And so she convinced me to go, to turn myself in, which I did. And then that was a shit show too, because there was a major there that wasn't understanding, my case or what have you. And she just saw where I was deployed, and she was just like, she didn't believe me for whatever reason. So
that's a common thing.
Yeah.
The people who don't need help are the ones that benefit from it.
Right.
And the people who do need help, you're faking it.
Yeah. So
can I roll you back just a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
You said you woke up and you didn't even consider it an attempt at that point, right?
Right.
Because everything was being minimized. When your therapist and you sat down, and you explained that, and she made that clear to you.
Mm-hmm.
Did that prompt anything for you? Did
no
prompt a switch, or did it become real at that point?
It was such a numb, I was in such a numb state that I was just like, whatever, you tell me what to do, I'll go do it. There was an era of I need to do something.
Yeah.
Obviously what I'm doing is not working.
Yeah.
So I went, I turned myself in, and then I went to inpatient. They put me at the VA for stabilization, and then they sent me to a inpatient program in North Texas at Denton. It's called UBH, I think.
Okay. Was that 30 days or? It
was supposed to be 30 days, but then I extended because I was no, I really need to figure out what the fuck's going on. Sure. If I'm going to be here, I want to actually dive into what this is and what I am.
Yeah.
And it was an all military wing.
Okay.
So we did cognitive process, CBT, which fucking sucked. But I mean, it was beneficial. And then we was in a group setting. So it was other veterans were kind of there. And I do feel that was in that group therapy, in that group session, I mean, I know it probably doesn't work for everyone, but it was, for me, even though it was intimidating to go into and going through it all, but it was the other veterans that kind of healed each other.
Yeah.
It was that, being there for each other. We understand each other. Stories. We know where you're from. Even though our experiences are different, we actually understood where everybody was coming from. Because that's one thing I've learned. It's not the specifics of the story, even though those are important to the person, but it's the symptoms and everything that revolves around it that is what we can, bridge that, common understanding on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that kind of led me on a path to go to Home-Based Boston. That was an outpatient program. My wife got, a therapy there as well, which was beneficial for her.
Home-Based is a good program.
Yeah, it was a good program. Yeah, it was there.
We at the Robert Irvine Foundation, we actually sponsor them.
Nice.
They're a beneficiary. Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff, amazing work for mental health. But I mean, how did they help you?
Who? Home-Based or Home-Based? They had different treatments. So one of the things that I love that they did, they integrated, obviously fitness, into it. They taught people how to work out, especially if they had any like disabilities, like physical disabilities that they couldn't work out with, or ways around that. There was always a different session, but one of the big ones was in vivo therapy. So that's something I hadn't done to that point. So they would just, depending on what your stresses are, one of mine is like crowds.
Yeah.
And they would have you sit in it for an extended period of time until you felt like where you couldn't handle it anymore.
Exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So
Amazing stuff. And in my opinion, that and CBT is probably the best way to overcome PTS.
Right.
Exposure therapy more so than most, right? Do something that makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
If you don't like crowds, learn to love them. That was the biggest thing for me. I had a breakdown in IKEA once. We've talked about this numerous times. No windows, very crowded. And it was probably one of the most difficult moments for me as far as breakdown in public goes. But it was probably one of the most beneficial things for me because I remembered that. And ever since then, it got easier. You just start chipping away at it, right?
And I noticed that if you don't keep practicing that it will resurface again.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate to compare us to like dogs, but it's like if you never take a dog out in public and you just leave them in the house all day, which a lot of us do, we isolate, we stay in the house, and
anxiety
goes to. So when you finally take them out, they're aggressive. They don't know how to interact with the world.
And what have we done for the last 2.5 years?
Sat inside. Stared at screens by ourselves.
Yeah. So anxiety and stress is all through the roof. Everybody is feeling cooped up and unsocial. Right.
Yeah.
So what do? You go out. You start talking to people. Go to the gym. That's a big therapy for us. Is I don't work out to look good. I work out because I'd lose my mind if I didn't.
Yeah. Right.
And that's probably what helped you kind of overcome that as well. And you found your outlet, didn't you?
I did. I did. It's just got out of the military. Didn't know what I was going to do. I still wasn't. I don't feel like I'm still there where I want to be or where I used to be. But one of those things, the next rung, if you will, to kind of bring me out of that dark hole was, I remember I went mountain biking in Germany. Boss invited me and I borrowed a buddy's bike. I crashed a shit ton then, and usually I was hungover, but I remember how amazing I felt like afterwards, even though I was like dead tired.
Yeah.
I was just like, I felt really good about myself afterwards. And then I hadn't ridden it again. So fast forward 7-10 years or whatever, I'm in, I retired from the military here in San Antonio. I buy a hardtail. It was the most expensive thing I've ever purchased, like a bike, I should say. Most expensive bike I've ever purchased. It was, but I bought that. I found the trails, I looked up some meet me thing or whatever and found other riders and that was weird. It was challenging being uncomfortable around different people.
Finding those groups.
Yeah.
Being a stranger there.
New communities and challenges.
And like doing a sport that could be potentially embarrassing.
And somewhat dangerous.
And dangerous.
Yeah, it could be.
Very challenging to be good at.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went out for a ride here in San Antonio, and it was crazy because I grew up here the first 18 years of my life. And I didn't even know that these trails existed. Yeah. So it kind of gave me a different experience of what San Antonio is other than just the city.
Yeah.
I got really into it. I met another veteran, he's an older veteran, but he introduced me into the mountain biking community. Everyone was real chill. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting how my anxiety doesn't go up when I'm outdoors in the woods and there's a group of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a different environment. It's usually when it's in a confined space and you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people and it's just, so with that, I kind of slowly but surely started growing my, circle, if you will, with like-minded people and doing something outside. I really enjoyed. The first ride, it was sketchy, it was loose, but I really enjoyed just being out. And then through that, I was became infatuated with nature, and then I started reading more about it. I started listening to Andrew Huberman, it talks about, forward momentum and what it does to your brain and how it benefits to mental health. And
yes.
So that kind of, I just kept pulling the threads, if you will. And about 7 months later, I met Jonathan Hagerman, through a, drug deal, tire sale, late at night. And I met another veteran. He invited me to Bentonville, Arkansas, and that's where I met Jonathan Hagerman, who now runs the Dirt Therapy Project. And yeah, that's through each event, I get a little bit better. I get a little bit, not just riding, but as a human, as a person, and it's something that from the day I met him to now, it's like, I'm going to do everything I can to boost your signal, because I really believe in this, like what this has done for me. And I know other people can benefit from that. So
expound on that a little bit, the Dirt Therapy Project.
So the Dirt Therapy Project is a veteran nonprofit. Was it 501c3?
Yes, sir.
Am I saying that right? Anyways. So the program takes out, they do local rides here in San Antonio. You can go to the Facebook page, the Dirt Therapy Project, or you can go to tdtp.org to find out more about them. I'm just saying that in case I forget later. But so take out veterans riding, especially like, they used to be able to provide bikes. There are some bikes that we do have, but we just take them out riding on the local trails and just kind of show them the sport, slowly integrate them. Or if you're an experienced rider, we have, places to ride and things that, like, for all levels of riders. If that's something that you're interested in doing, definitely like reach out to the program, read about it. But yeah, so they try to do 4 out of state or, trips a year. Take veterans out, and like just recently we went to Bentonville, Arkansas again, which was kind of like our 4th year anniversary kind of thing. Through donations and supporters or what have you, we're able to do a fully funded trip. I mean, minus incidentals. If you want like a t-shirt or something, you're going to buy it yourself, or extra additional food. But this last time we had a group of like 13 people.
Okay.
And we all stayed in an Airbnb together. It was real like cool. Like we went riding for 3 days at different points of Arkansas. And there's something that happens just naturally with that. And it's like, I call it the therapy without therapy. Even though therapy's in the word, there's no structured therapy around it. It just happens organically. We're all like climbing a hill together, and there's a suffering in that. That kind of bonds us together. On the way down, we're like, cheering and hooting and hollering or whatever on the way down. And then afterwards, just people just kind of just start talking. It's nothing that's expected, but it's something that just happens. And we're sharing, either resources or experiences or like, educational benefits to the VA or like where to go or point of contacts or anything like that. So it's pretty amazing.
Common interest and common ground. Best way to break bread together.
Right.
For sure.
So, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of extreme sports as a form of therapy. It was something that I was involved with for years, teaching combat wounded veterans how to skydive and paraglide and intro piloting lessons. And very much similar to how the Dirt Therapy Project, it introduces these men and women to new communities, right? So your brand new community, even though Dirt Therapy Project is made up of a lot of veterans, most of the mountain biking community is not veterans. So when you're getting out there, you're getting a chance to meet new people who have additional hobbies and interests and additional networks and who have additional viewpoints on life that are not exactly the same as yours. And it's really good to broaden those horizons and the challenge at the same time, right? Mountain biking ain't easy, especially when you're riding uphill and trying to do a big climb on a hot afternoon. Like those climbs can suck big time.
Yeah, they can.
But when you're going up with a group of friends or people that you just met, they're all motivating each other. You get up to the top and then you get to bomb down to the bottom together. That feeling is so, so good. And one of the things that I really love about, mountain biking, for instance, is very similar to skydiving and base jumping. And that when you're going downhill, like there's a lot of challenge with the climb and everything, but when you're going downhill, all of your focus is right then and there.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment.
In the moment.
Because if you're not in the moment, then you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you like that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan going into it. So I wasn't in the moment. I tried to just break when I wasn't supposed to.
Let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So what were we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, so we were out there.
That question threw me off. Let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
And say, so, we were a few days ago
Mhm.
at Spider Mountain,
Correct.
right? Doing a little Terra Arma commercial
Yeah.
about, some of the amazing MSOs, VSOs out there that support our community. And one of which was Dirt Therapy Project. So we got the whole mountain to ourselves. And when I say mountain, it is Texas, guys. So
Yeah.
this is an overgrown hill. And we got to go out for, 3 days, but primarily focused on that one day and just getting crazy on the mountain. And you guys are so funny. You get a camera in front of your face and you're like, I could take on the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you did, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit. You got excited. Man, you ripped through that trail like there was no tomorrow. And it sounded like you did a Superman.
Yeah, I did. Luckily, I played baseball, so I did a pretty much head first slide. And that's the thing too. Like I'm so used to doing that trail, but I'm not used to stopping where I stopped. So I didn't consider like how loose it was, the amount of speed I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Usually like you go up this wood feature afterwards and it kind of curbs your speed a little bit. But no, I just try to brake right there and the bike slid off from under me and I just went head first, just sliding, like I was sliding home. But yeah, got some good souvenirs.
Well, I mean,
Scars, yeah.
a little bit more than a few souvenirs. You got some scars for life, brother. You Supermaned into the gravel and a rock literally went through your glove and now you have 4 stitches from it.
Yeah. So
4 stitches. Yeah.
Mountain biking can be dangerous, but well worth it.
Yeah.
Well-
So, I mean, and there's something to that. Like, I don't know. It's not traditional, like in the sense of, I don't know. I mean, not to knock any other like therapies, like art therapy, like or anything like that. But I don't know. You're using a lot more of your body. You're using a lot more like physical strength and all these different things that you're, as opposed to just kind of sitting there. That's more like a mental thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where you're kind of working your mind to create whatever. And those are things I do as well because I don't feel. Because the one thing I learned last couple years ago, I broke my hand during a race, and I literally almost sold all my bikes because I was just like,
Done with it.
yeah, I'm done with it. Like I was so angry because I allowed this one thing to control me to the point where if I can't do this anymore, then I don't want to do it at all anymore. But I just became one-dimensional. So you can't do that with anything in life because let's say for whatever reason you can't do it, age or whatever. Then
You
what
can't go
are you? Yeah.
extreme in any direction,
Right.
right? If you go extreme, you get obsessed. It starts losing passion, right?
Right.
But in the community, you do have a name, and that's Crash.
Right. Crash Bandicoot and
Yeah.
somebody else named me 50-50. So my ratio to crashing.
But with that said, you've hit almost 15 races at this point,
Right.
and you just recently got 6th on your
Yeah.
first race, or
On my
on
last race.
Your last race.
Yeah, my last race.
And that's a huge deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
42 years old,
correct.
and you're crushing these younger bucks just running around, ripping around the mountain.
Yeah. I mean, I'm within my age group, but yeah, there's definitely some rippers out there in the 40 plus category. Like, don't sleep on the age because there are some rippers out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's another guy on our team, an Army veteran, and he's usually in the top 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's
Wow.
a shredder. But yeah, it comes with the competition of it. I mean, we keep it between the tape.
Mhm.
The race team I manage, we don't approach it like normal race teams. A lot of it's competitive, and we are competitive. But our motto is kind of keep it between the tape. We're there to be like, because we're all obviously representing the Dirt Therapy Project,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
So we're there I kind of foresee it as like mentors to the community, like big brothers. We
An
have a lot of
example.
experience. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the way I see it, it's lingering in the conversation we had. It's the thing we learned in the military is train the people up behind you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's no better way to do that than, kind of just be ourselves. And, if somebody breaks down on the
And follow the ones that are
mechanical-
ahead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how you're always challenge yourself to hit the next level. And that's something that I really appreciate is, we say so many times on the show is like, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And there is no way that you're going to expand your skill set if you're being complacent and just taking it easy,
Mhm.
So 50-50 means that every time you hit that trail, you are pushing yourself and pushing your limits. And in a short amount of time, 15 races, you've gotten 6th place already. I mean, you're moving.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And my approach is like, you're never going to, it's real easy in the beginning to start anything to get overwhelmed. Like, oh, I'm never going to be as good as that. But it sounds cheesy, but if you can just take it like and this is with anything in life, if you get better at it each attempt, like eventually you're going to get there.
Yeah.
So just try to keep your world small and just try to get better each attempt. And that's my approach that I've started with. When I first started riding, it was hard to do some of the stuff, but each time I just try to get better and get better and get better. And through that, eventually you get there.
Baby steps, right?
Yeah, baby steps. Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's a
don't
good
have to
movie.
dive right in. You don't have to be sending double blacks day one.
Exactly.
Trust me, you won't.
There's some crazy trails out there.
Crazy trails.
Man, but it gets in your head sometimes a little bit,
It
right?
can, and crashes get in your head too. That's usually why if I could go back and do it again, within reason. Like this was obviously not one of those times, but I usually get up and I go do it again because if not, it will get in your head. So every time you do it, you won't want to do it again.
Well,
Fear is a strange thing.
Yeah.
I could tell that he wanted to get back into it again because the nurse, he's like, oh, so when can I start using my hand? Like,
Yeah.
as she's finishing up the last stitch. And she's like, well, I wouldn't be going on the mountain again. And you could tell this guy was like distraught from
I
that.
don't know what you're talking about.
He's like, pair of gloves, and I'll be fine.
Yeah. Want a second opinion?
yeah.
That is amazing stuff. So not only do you participate in the Dirt Therapy Project, but you are also the race director there.
Right. Yeah.
And wear several different hats in the community. So not only are you setting the example for others to follow, but you're setting the example for those in this community on how to find their outlet and how to get them past their adversities, which is the hugest part. And what's really crazy to me, and we talk about this all the time too, extreme sports is a great way to make you laser focus. Whether it's fighting or shooting, those are all inclusive. When you take away the outside noise and just are so in the moment, that just everything else melts away. So even the most stressful things of like crashing and almost dying is fun.
Yeah.
It takes away all that other crap that's going on in your life.
It's like, it's probably oxymoron, but like forced meditation. Like, because
it
if
is.
you don't,
It is a form of meditation.
Right.
When you focus on one task in a world with just being bombarded constantly by multitasking, it's therapy. It is meditation in a sense. It's maybe not the most relaxing meditation and your heart rate's up and everything else, but you're just so focused.
Right. But afterwards, once you're done with the trail, like it's so relaxing because you got whatever stress or whatever that was kind of going on in your life afterwards. And you're just there hanging out with whoever, just bullshitting or whatever, just like we would in a shop or anything like that. And it's just a good time overall.
It is. Yeah, I got to do one little run at the end of the day on Tuesday with Chuck.
I really wish I could have rode with you, man. But
same here, man. But I haven't ridden. Dave and I have been riding mountain bikes quite a lot this spring, but we haven't ridden in like the last 6 or 7 weeks. And when I was going, I was about halfway down the hill, and Chuck is rushing it. That dude is so fast. But I was going down this super technical spot, and I just remember, like at that moment, I realized, like, all my focus is right here on this trail.
The flow state.
And I instantly just felt relaxed. Like I recognized what was happening, entering that flow state, like all my focus 100% here. And you just give right into it. And by the time we hit the bottom of the hill, I had the biggest smile on my face. I was so happy, so relaxed. And it was just one single trail.
Exactly.
Just one little trail. Made me feel so good. Like you guys are absolutely onto something. And I love what you're doing, involving more veterans and more, first responders in the mountain biking community, because I think it's great. I think it can do a lot of good for a lot of people out there who have similar interests at the very least. Yeah,
and at the very least, it puts another tool in their toolbox. It doesn't always have to be the same thing, but it provides another route of therapy, if you will.
Incredible. So I want you to take a moment and tell our audience, if they're going through some adversity, facing some of their demons. Like, what's a piece of advice that you could tell them to help them overcome that? Or something that you learned along the way too that helped you, find your outlet.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, I've had this question asked me before. And one, it's hard to understand that you're not the only one going through it. I know people say that all the time, but more often than not, like, people don't show who they really are, like in a work setting or anything like that. So be mindful of that. But everyone is struggling through something.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're going to go and seek, whether talk therapy or anything like that, try to treat it as like dating. So not every counselor you're going to talk to is going to be a match for you. So keep that in mind.
True.
Yeah. So if you rub them, you get rubbed the wrong way or anything like that, ask for another therapist. I mean, so that's one. And two or three is, even if you can't find, because that was me. I didn't have the energy or the awareness to do it for myself. I was like, I didn't give a fuck about myself, if I'm being honest. But I did give a fuck about my wife, but I also understood so my point is to try to do it for something, whether it's your pet or whether it's, I don't know, something you love.
Find an anchor.
Try to find an anchor, exactly. But understand, like, if you pick another human to be that anchor, they will fail you. So that has to be a temporary anchor, because eventually the goal is to do it for yourself.
Yes.
That is it.
So I had to understand that. That's why I said that. Like, when I was in inpatient, I stopped talking to my wife for a little bit. She needed to reset. She got tired of walking on eggshells around me. And I had to come to grips and understand, like, that when I leave here, she may not be there. So I had to shift that focus to myself, which is one of the hardest things to do. So just understand that, find that thing, whatever you love, that anchor, and try to do it for that. But understand that that's temporary. Just like I talked about the rung, you're trying to climb out of that deep hole. Just try to use one rung at a time and find those tools, whether it's drawing, writing, singing, playing an instrument. Try different things. Don't just rely on one thing, and just try everything until you find it.
That's amazing.
Expand your horizons.
Expand your horizons.
Simon Garcia.
Yes, sir.
It has been amazing having you on this show today. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. We have a saying on the Medevac podcast, and that's being tough but tender. And it is okay to feel as a man, or just in general. It's amazing. You have an incredible story, and I know it was tough for you to open up. So we appreciate that. Our audience is going to appreciate that. Overcoming their battles as well. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. This has been the Medevac Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Take care.